Senator Middleton, thank you for taking some time today with us. We appreciate it. I want to start with, the name we're seeing all over the news, MAGA Mays Middleton. It's literally everywhere you look. Where did that come from, and what makes you most MAGA?
So I am the Trump candidate in this race. Aaron Reitz, my former primary opponent, actually endorsed me, and he said the reason why is he knows I will back up President Trump. President Trump called me a MAGA champion. He also said my conservative record is second to none.
You came in first during the primary back in March. Now, of course, it's a one-on-one race in this runoff. What do you have to do? What are you doing to win this runoff and come out on top?
So I'm traveling every corner of this state, whether it's Texarkana or El Paso or Brownsville or Lubbock or Amarillo or Beaumont or the Coastal Bend or Wichita Falls, everywhere in between, earning every last vote. But look, there's a difference in this race between myself and my opponent, Chip Roy. I have spent 10 years fighting the left. He, on the other hand, has spent 10 years fighting President Trump. Right? This is someone that actually gave a speech on the U.S. House floor saying that President Trump committed impeachable conduct, that he sided with Liz Cheney and commended Liz Cheney. And not only that, Liz Cheney later endorsed Chip Roy for a leadership role in Congress. Look, this is also someone that has undermined President Trump for nearly his entire career. And not that long ago, we're talking like 2 years ago, he was out on the campaign trail campaigning against President Trump, working for one of the largest anti-Trump groups in America that was undermining him and spending millions of dollars to do it. And thank goodness Chip Roy was not successful and Donald Trump was elected overwhelmingly and won, because he is the greatest president we have ever had, period, the end.
I'm curious, have you had conversations with President Trump about a possible endorsement? An endorsement hasn't come yet. Do you hope one comes before Tuesday?
Look, I'm going to always be honored to have his support and endorsement in this race. And I'll also point this out as well. Attorney General Ken Paxton was endorsed yesterday by President Trump. Well, Ken Paxton said that he is voting for me in this Republican primary runoff, and not only that, he could not imagine Chip Roy in this position. And we'll point out what his last day on the office looked like. Chip Roy's last day, he worked in the Attorney General's office in 2016. And you know what he was told? He was told, you can resign or be fired, and he was walked out of the office and he was fired for gross insubordination. And I don't know about you, but when you tell someone you can resign or be fired, you don't let him back in the building after that.
You're traveling the state corner to corner, as you just said, talking to Texas Republicans. So what is your message to them out on the campaign trail? Why are you the better choice for Texas AG than sitting Congressman Chip Roy?
So look, this is really simple. The number one most important thing in this office, the number one thing we have to do is defeat the left. And if you are an enemy of Texas, you are an enemy of mine, and that's exactly what I will do in the AG's office. And this is a show me, don't tell me business, right? We're tired of politicians telling us what they're going to do. They've got to show us the results, and that's exactly what I can do. I took on the woke left and the radical gender ideology and won. Authored and passed the Save Women's Sports Law and also the strongest women's privacy law in America, which kicks perverted men out of women's restrooms and locker rooms. I took on the atheists and defeated them and got prayer and the 10 Commandments back into our schools. Also took on our foreign adversaries in Austin, stopped China from buying our land, stopped these radical Muslim groups like CARE and Muslim Brotherhood from owning any property in Texas. I designated cartels as terrorists, tripled border security, and I'm now fighting one of our most growing and biggest threats, which is Sharia law and Islamification. And I am the only one in this race that has written and passed laws to stop Sharia law and stop Islamification. We ban no-go zones. You cannot build developments that prohibit Christians from living there and push Sharia law. That is illegal in Texas. You also cannot enforce Sharia law. It is a crime now. And thirdly, most importantly, what I talked about a second ago, These Muslim groups are not allowed to own property in Texas. We changed the law this session to prohibit enemy entities like Karen Muslim Brotherhood from owning any of our state, not 1 square inch.
I want to follow up on that. What do you tell Republicans who happen to be maybe Muslim? There are Muslim Republicans out there in the state who see what you're saying and feel like it's an attack on their faith. What's your message to those voters, which I assume you also want to vote for you come Tuesday?
Look, follow the law. This is an America First issue. This is a Texas First issue. It is illegal to enforce Sharia law. It is illegal to have these enclaves. It is wrong to push these anti-American ideas that we are seeing, right? They want to undermine our constitutional republic. And that's what we are. We're not a democracy. We are a constitutional republic. And at the end of the day, Islamification is incompatible with that because they don't think we deserve the right to exist as Americans or as Christians. And I don't believe this is a First Amendment issue. It is not. Because if they're faithfully adherent to their ideology, what does that mean under the Quran? It means that we are the infidel that they can commit jihad against. No, this is a national security issue. This is a Texas First issue. This is about putting the Christian conservative values that made this state great and were founded on first.
Do you welcome, though, just to be clear, do you welcome the support of GOP Muslim voters who do want to back you in this race?
Well, look, at the end of the day, this is the most important thing in this race. Fighting for those values that our founding fathers fought for in 1836. That is the thing that matters the most, and we don't have another Texas to move to. That's why this is so important. We also need to make sure that people assimilate, right? Learn to love our state, learn to love our country, learn the exceptionalism that we were founded on, because Texas is better than all the other states. We're not like the rest, right? We won our independence, and we all know freedom is not free. That's what we're founded on. That's what's made us great. That's where exceptionalism is from, and that's what we have to protect and defend. And I'm a 7th-generation Texan. I was born here. I'll be buried here. I am never going anywhere else. And also, I am not retreating from Washington, D.C., because I'm never going to Washington, D.C. I have always known that the fight is right here in the great state of Texas.
Many would argue, Texans don't wake up thinking every day about political fights. They have a lot of other things on their mind. They worry about crime, being scammed, fentanyl coming across the border, rising property taxes. How would you, being elected AG, change those people's lives here in this state?
So look, I represent part of Harris County right now in the Texas Senate. I have seen this problem firsthand, where rogue DAs like Sean Tier, Soros-elected DA, treats our laws and Constitution as a suggestion. Who suffers in that? Our families do, our communities do, our public safety does. And look, I'm the law and order candidate in this race. It's why law enforcement is almost unanimously behind me. Fraternal Order Police has endorsed me. HPOU, Houston Police, have endorsed me. Texas Municipal Police Association has endorsed me. Countless sheriffs across this state. Because tough on crime, that's how we secure our God-granted freedoms. And that's exactly what I will do in the AG's office to make sure that Texas is the safest state in America to live and raise a family. And yes, we had 4 years of an open border. Fentanyl poured over, cartels poured over, organized crime poured over. It is up to us to clean that up and keep our communities safe. And I'll say this as well. If anyone treats our laws and our Constitution as a suggestion, they have violated their oath of office and they need to be removed from office. It is that simple.
There's quite the battle on the airwaves going on in this campaign, especially in these last few days of the runoff race. One of the attacks that you hear against you is an attack from Chip Roy against your experience. He says you've never spent a day in a courtroom, never been a prosecutor, that you have a law degree but don't practice law. Basically, in essence, questioning that you don't have what it takes to run this office. What's your response?
Well, we know he doesn't have what it takes. He got fired. He was told resign or be fired. But not only that, think about this position, right? DAs, they're in the judicial branch. Prosecutors, that's in a different branch of government. This is in the executive branch, the Attorney General's office. It is 4,000 employees. It is 750 attorneys. You got to have someone that has the experience signing the front of a paycheck and knowing where the buck stops. And I'm the only one in this race that has that experience. But not only that, I practice law every day. I've authored and passed these laws that we just talked about. I have gone to battle against Democrat attorneys on the Texas House floor, gone to battle against Democrat attorneys on the Senate floor, gotten these laws over the finish line, and won. Who better to enforce them as Attorney General than me? But not only that, take a step back, 2013. Think of Ken Paxton in 2013. When was he running for Senate? We didn't support him because he was a civil attorney like me, worked for Gibson and Dunn and corporate law and various other matters. The reason why we supported him is because he was the top 1 or 2 most conservative members in the Texas Senate, just as I am. Right? This is about that proven conservative record, and this is a leadership role. You set the conservative agenda for this entire state, and you hire the very best people to do it. And that's exactly what's happened in the AG's office. You look at the victories that we just had over the past few weeks. 10 Commandments was one of them. Huge victory. Redistricting, another victory. Another victory we had was lifting the injunction on the state's deportation law in the Fifth Circuit, where it allows Texas to deport illegal immigrants. That was SB 4. That is a law that I fought for, and that is a way that we secure our border and make sure that we deport illegal immigrants in Texas.
Senator, if elected, what are your top 1 or 2 priorities on day 1 serving as Attorney General of Texas?
So one of the top priorities for me is making sure that we back up President Trump with every resource and tool in the AG's office to advance his deportation and border security agenda. What you've seen in Minnesota, Minneapolis, Houston even tried it, Dallas tried it, we've seen it in Austin, we've seen it in other blue cities where they're blocking ICE, they're blocking that deportation agenda. And this is really simple for me. That's a violation of the ban on sanctuary cities. And the ban on sanctuary cities was a Freedom Caucus priority. And so what does it allow me to do as AG? Number 1, sue for civil penalties. Number 2, criminal penalties. And number 3, removal from office. You get in the way of ICE, you get removed from office. I also want to start a task force devoted to rooting out organized crime. And top of that list to me, Sharia law. Sharia law is organized crime, period. I'm going to go after the cartels. I'm going to go after the drug traffickers, the human traffickers, the sex traffickers, all of those that have poured over the border in the last 4 years to make sure that we keep our families safe, our communities safe, because if we don't do that, what happens? Your God-granted freedoms of life, liberty, and property, someone could take your life, someone could take your liberty, someone could take your property. And I also want to go after corruption, like we've seen here in Harris County. Government doesn't have any money. It's all taxpayer money. And I'm tired of talking about waste, fraud, and abuse. I want to hold those accountable that committed the waste and the fraud and the abuse. And that's exactly what I will do, which includes the NGOs, these non-governmental organizations that are stealing tax dollars, some of which have been used to fund things like the No Kings rally, right? Or the riots in 2020. And who was behind a lot of that? George Soros. So on day 1 in office, I will investigate George Soros for the crimes that I believe he's committed against our great state.
As you well know, there's been a bit of a contentious relationship in the last few years, especially under a Paxton administration, between the AG's office and local government. You mentioned Harris County, City of Houston as well in the news just a few weeks ago based on what they were trying to do in terms of ICE and Houston police. It sounds like you're saying that type of, I don't know how you would describe it, whether it's contentious or that type of relationship, that style of relationship would continue, perhaps even beef up under a Middleton administration?
We've got to follow the law, and they're not, right? They were violating the ban on sanctuary cities. They violated some of our laws on property tax relief, caps, putting things on the ballot, defunding the police. The list goes on, the things that we saw with the COVID vaccine contracts, right? The COVID contracts and the fraud and the waste and the abuse there. I mean, these are things that are simple and common sense. And we've got to make sure that we're protecting public safety, taxpayers, and enforcing the law. And that's exactly what I will do as Attorney General, is make sure that the law is enforced to its fullest extent. And I will not relent in that.
How do you think the AG's office under Ken Paxton has run these last few years? And is there anything that Attorney General Paxton has done that you would have maybe done differently?
Well, he's done a great job fighting for our conservative values here. I mean, I mentioned some of the victories just now where it was a huge victory on redistricting. That's a big, beautiful map is what I call it. We drew 5 more Republican seats. But look on the 10 Commandments also. That was a big priority of mine, restoring the 10 Commandments in our schools, because children need to know God's law. You got to ask, are we better or are we worse off since prayer and the 10 Commandments were taken out of schools? We all know the answer to this. And the left was saying that's harmful. Well, which part? Don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal, Honor thy mother, thy father, don't kill. I mean, these are the things that kids need to learn, and it's a good example of what the left is trying to do to destroy our state and drag us down like New York and California and all the others and make us just like those failed blue states. And I will not allow it, but we got to continue this fight, right? We cannot give an inch. We cannot slow down, and we have to make sure the left is defeated. And look, so there's a reason why I'm the only one in this race that's been protested at the Texas Capitol during this campaign. They had these big, ugly green signs with my face on it, and they called me the bathroom bigot. Why? Because I don't want men in my little girl's restroom or locker room or shower. There's also a reason why the two Democrats in this race, Joe Jaworski and Nathan Johnson, they had a big debate. And they said, the guy we got to stop, the guy we cannot allow to get elected is this MAGA Mays guy. And then Johnson went on to say he's leading in the Democrat primary. He said, we can't let Mays get elected because he'll back up President Trump. Well, you're darn right I will. And then not only that, they've threatened me, they've threatened my family. Look, the reason why I've been protested, the reason why the Democrats in this race are saying I'm the one to stop, the reason why they've threatened me and my family is because the left knows who their true enemy is in this race, and it's me. It's because I'm already defeating the left.
Is there anything, just to be clear, anything at all that you would have done differently than Ken Paxton? Do you think Ken Paxton has gone far enough? Would you go further?
Well, look, here's one of the things that I want to do. The ability of the AG to prosecute election-related crimes was taken away in 2021 by the Court of Criminal Appeals. It was removed. And I fought to restore that. I asked Governor Abbott to add it to the special session call. He did. We passed it. It became law in December. But now we got to take step 2, which is a standalone task force devoted to investigating and prosecuting those that are breaking our election laws. Because we know this, one illegal vote cancels out your legal vote. And I also ask this too, do we believe a George Soros DA is going to prosecute voter fraud? No, we don't. That's why this power to prosecute is so important in the AG's office. And it makes sure of something very simple, that only legally qualified citizens are voting in our elections. We've seen the consequences of this in Harris County when they shorted ballot paper in 2022 to primarily Republican precincts, right? They probably cost us the election that November because of that.
You'll hear critics, and I'm sure you've heard many of them, who say Paxton ran the AG's office in a more aggressive way. I think it's fair to say Paxton revolutionized how strong and powerful the Texas AG's office can be and has become. But they also say he's ran the AG's office in service of President Trump and only his priorities, that the office has become at times too political. Are those critics wrong? And second question, if President Trump wants something politically, but Texas law says otherwise, who wins under a Middleton administration?
So look, this is really simple. We got to protect and defend Texas. And circling back to where I started, if you are an enemy of Texas, you are an enemy of mine. And that's how I'll treat it in the AG's office. And no, we are under attack. It's not just overreach, right? It's not just what we saw under the Biden administration, where he was trying to take people's guns and force men into women's restrooms and open up the border and target oil and gas with the Green New Scam and destroy Texas. It's not just that. We have woke companies as well that are trying to hurt Texas. A good example is what happened during COVID, right? I authored and passed the strongest ban on COVID vaccine mandates in America, defeating Big Pharma, defeating the vaccine lobby that was trying to block that. They failed. We beat them. But not only that, another good example here, food stamps, right? We all know the food stamp program is ripe with waste, fraud, and abuse. I changed the law to kick soda and candy out of the food stamp program. That was a tough fight. But look, it didn't even satisfy the purpose of the program, which is nutritious food essential to health and well-being. Soda and candy is not that. I took on the big soda lobby there and won, and kicked about $1 billion a year of taxpayer-funded soda out of the food stamp program. That is a huge savings. It's also eliminating a tremendous amount of waste, fraud, and abuse. And taxpayer-funded junk food turns into taxpayer-funded health care. This is common sense. So these are the fights that we've got to have. I mean, another good example is the age verification for pornography. There was huge opposition to that. But one of the most important things that we do and I do in government is protect children from harm. And these were big companies that were trying to hurt Texas kids. That's why I fought to pass that and make sure that those children are protected from being exposed to pornography. And look, the list goes on, making sure that kids aren't subject to the evil practice of child transgender surgeries and gender-modifying drugs, right? That was a Freedom Caucus priority. Freedom Caucus priority. It took us years to get it done. It is the law in Texas right now. I'm grateful it is the law. But here's another contrast. Here's another difference between myself and Chip Roy. When something very similar was going through Congress, just this December, it wasn't very long ago, and it was a total ban on child transgender surgeries and gender-modifying drugs. What did he do? He offered an amendment that would have allowed those evil child transgender surgeries to continue and those gender-modifying drugs to continue. I'm here to ban all evil, not just taxpayer-funded evil. And he was using this excuse of states' rights in the Commerce Clause. You know what? There's no right to harm a child. And that's the difference between the two of us.
So just following up, do you believe the office has become too political?
No.
At the beginning of the interview, you sort of beat me to the punch talking about that big endorsement we heard of yesterday. It sounds like you obviously support what the president came out and said yesterday. And it also sounded like during your comments that you think it also could benefit you because Paxton has said he would vote for you. So if you could just talk about the importance of what happened yesterday and how, again, you think it may impact your race.
Well, President Trump has been an incredible defender of not just America, but of Texas. I mean, we were under attack. The amount of damage that was done to our country and our state in the 4 years that Biden was there was more than we could have ever imagined in 2020. When he stole it, that was a stolen election. Let me be clear about that in 2020 as well. And Chip Roy actually fought to certify that election and install Joe Biden as president. And that's just judgment you can't trust for someone that's trying to run the election integrity division of the AG's office. So President Trump is a champion. He loves this country. How many times have they tried to kill him because of that? A few times just in the past year or so, just because he's fighting for us. He's fighting for our country. He loves America and he wants what's best for her. Here's the other thing. He can't be bought or rented. The left doesn't like that and the Austin swamp doesn't like that. And like our president, I don't take anything from this job. I don't take the salary, I don't take the pension, I don't take the health care, I don't take the state license plate, I don't take the lobbyist NFL tickets or ski trips. I don't take anything from it. I am only here to serve and fight for the conservative values that we believe in.
Well, just to be clear, the facts show that there is no overwhelming evidence the 2020 election was stolen. Every judge, every court that took a look at this, threw it out. So just want to set the record straight on that.
Well, I'll push back on that.
Go ahead.
We sent attorneys to Pennsylvania. What did they find? They found the voting machines between Democrat and Republican. The Democrat machines were working just fine. The Republican ones, they said, were broken, and they were putting the ballots in suitcases, giving people golf pencils and Sharpies to invalidate the ballots. There's Exhibit A right there. We saw it firsthand.
Why do you think judges threw everything out then?
They didn't follow the law.
I want to talk one more time about your potential endorsement, the one I'm assuming you've been seeking from President Trump. He's endorsed in many different races. Your campaign ads, you're known as MAGA Mays Middleton. I mean, you're carrying that brand very well, some would argue, for him. Why do you think an endorsement hasn't come in this race? And I'll add to the fact, in February, he came to Texas and he gave a shout out to your opponent, no endorsement, but said he was doing a good job. Good job, Chip Roy, you're doing a good job. Why do you think an endorsement hasn't come?
Well, look, I'm grateful to also have the endorsement of President Trump's finance chair in Texas, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. And just yesterday, Sid Miller, our current ag commissioner, endorsed me in this race as well. And we all know how pro-Trump Sid Miller has been throughout the beginning, from 2016 all the way to now. And President Trump's the greatest president we've ever had. I would be honored to have his endorsement, of course, and he has not yet, but it's something that I would love to have.
Two more quick questions for you. Should you win this runoff on Tuesday, you're going to need the voters that will come out and vote for Chip Roy, the Republican GOP voters who are going to pick Chip Roy in this runoff. So how do you win over those voters? after this runoff is over and you move to the general?
We got to go beat the Democrats in November. It is simple. They want to destroy our state, and we are all in this together. And look, Macy and I are blessed to have 4 little ones at home. 3 boys, 1 little girl. That's my daily reminder of what we're fighting for here. That's what's at risk, because if we get this wrong, who suffers? Our children, our grandchildren, their children. And the reason why it's so important there is we don't have another Texas to move to. This is it right here, right now, and I'm confident we will all come together to defeat people like James Tallarico in the November election.
And closing question for you, as Texans are heading to the polls right now through the end of the week and then, of course, on Election Day. Sum up as tightly as you can. Why should Texans trust you with one of the most powerful legal offices in our state?
This is a calling for me. This is not a job, right? It's not about the title or the position or the perks. I am only here to do what's right and leave the results to God and fight with everything in me for our great state. And I think of our founding fathers, right, in 1836, what they faced, the obstacles they faced. It was a lot, right? Everyone died at the Alamo. Everyone had been killed at Goliad, massacred. And yet, they persisted, and they went into that battlefield in San Jacinto, which is not very far from here. It's in the Houston area, and they won it all. Why? Because they believed in the same things I believe in and we believe in today, which is faith, family, and freedom. Our God-granted freedoms, right? Government doesn't grant us anything. Our rights are from God. And that's the exact thing that I continue to fight for today. And for the past 7 years in office, that's exactly what I've been doing. And I will never relent in that. And this is it right here. Right, like I said earlier, I'm never going to Washington, D.C., and I'm never retreating from Washington, D.C., because I've always known that the fight is right here in the great state of Texas. And I'll close with this. President Trump can't trust Chip Roy. Neither do I, and neither should you. He has shown throughout his 10 years, right, either in appointed or in public office or elected office, that he cannot be trusted, and his judgment cannot be trusted. When times are tough, when things may not be going well, he chooses wrong. That's why I picked Liz Cheney. That's why I said President Trump needed to be impeached. That's why he campaigned against President Trump in 2024. That's why he sided with Gavin Newsom and the transgender lobby. That's why he fought to certify a stolen election, and that's also why he was told, resign or be fired from the Attorney General's office.
Quick follow. You think this party can easily come together after this type of bitter, divisive primary?
Absolutely. I pledge to support every Republican nominee that wins in the Republican primary, including him. We are all in this together. We are all in it to win it in November, and I will make sure that we do what it takes, and I will do what it takes to deliver victory in this November for Texas.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much, Senator.